All right, so today we have Jeff Brailio, the real estate attorney, coming in to share nightmare stories in the courtroom. I believe he called them war stories in the courtroom. And these are the type of stories that we never want to be in, right? We never want to find ourselves in the courtroom in any situation, but when it comes to real estate, it's usually going to be an expensive situation. So you're definitely going to want to check out this show, check out this vlog, because Jeff's going to share some really cool learning experiences with all of us. Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Top Radio 1640 AM. This is the show Utah Home Sweet Home. And I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and today our very special guest is Jeff Brailio.
How you doing, Yoshi?
I'm good, buddy. You?
Great.
Good, good. Well, I'm excited for the show. We're actually going to be hearing, I think you called it War Stories from the Courtroom.
Or stories from the war room.
Stories from the war room. Okay.
Stories from the legal war room.
Legal war room. I mean, you know, I've since I was little, I've always been fascinated with law for some reason. I probably should have gone and studied law. I didn't, but you know, you. And now that I'm older, I'm even more fascinated as I see these legal cases that will take place. You know, you can actually go read all about it. And I love hearing about this stuff because usually there's a lesson to be learned. You know, sometimes if you rewind, it could have been avoidable, but it wasn't for whatever reason and happened. And so they're fascinating to me. And the lessons that I can pick up from it, and not necessarily saying we're going to dissect what the lesson is today, but for all of you listening, you can figure out what the lesson is for you. So I'm excited to dive into this, Jeff. You've got some stories for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's start with a couple that were retail sales.
Okay.
Now both these projects, both these cases were essentially investor projects.
Got it.
Where they were rehabs.
Okay.
So they were fix and flips projects.
Okay.
But this was problems that arose in the post-rehab sale for a retail client.
Gotcha.
Having to do with condition of the house. And inspections and things of that nature.
Got it.
So this really applies to anybody selling a house.
Yeah.
And so the first one, this is a fun one, because you'll know one of the contractors involved.
Okay.
I had a client, so he had a flip project and renovated the house.
Okay.
I was up in Ogden.
Okay.
And it was pretty good remodeling. It was the first time he had used a certain set of guys for the work.
Sure, okay.
And the quality wasn't really up to his standards, his normal standards. He's a really experienced investor, does a lot of flips, does really good jobs.
Got it.
This one he knew there was some issues, just little things that just weren't quite done perfectly.
Sure.
So anyways, he lists it on the multiple listing service. He has an agent. It sells on a retail transaction. The buyer also had an agent representing them. That's really kind of important.
Yeah.
And both these cases, there was an agent involved.
Gotcha.
And we'll talk about some of the issues that you can have with agents.
Okay.
But his buyer was a young woman in her 20s. This was her first home.
Okay.
And she bought the house and then moved in. And she found a couple of these little things, like some maybe cracked tile in the bathroom in a corner, that sort of thing. And so she came back to him with a kind of a list of repairs. He said, hey, no problem, these things need to be done. So he started to do the list, and then she said, well, I also found a leak in the roof. Okay. Which is obviously, that's a much bigger deal than some cracked tile.
Yeah. And this is still due diligence time, right?
No, this is after. So she
so she's already moved. I thought you said that, but I was just double checking.
She already had the inspections.
Okay.
She already closed. She bought the house. She moved in.
Got it.
Because these little things weren't anything that an inspector would pick out.
Yeah.
The inspector didn't find the problem with the roof.
Yeah.
And the inspector's not going to say, hey, there's a little cracked tile here, or this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when she moved in, that's when she kind of found the little things. But the leak in the roof was a section between the kitchen and an extension off the back.
Okay.
Where probably a porch. This is before my client even bought the house, so he didn't do this addition to the home.
Got it.
And it's very common in town for people to take their back porches, frame them in, roof them, and turn it into living space.
Right.
But then you got this sort of roofing of the roof itself, and then
Yeah.
sort of a new roof on the porch or where the deck was for the new addition.
Right.
And so they don't really line up really well.
Yes.
So anyways, there's a little bit of leak. He said, hey, no problem. Yeah, I can see that. There'll be a leak. I'll have my my roofer come out and fix it.
Yeah.
And so he sends the roofer out. And you know the roofer.
Okay.
It's our favorite roofer of all time.
Yes.
We could plug him maybe later in the show.
Yeah.
Give out his number. So he goes back and, and he did some patch jobs on the roof. That's why he was called back.
Got it.
And he's like, I'll go take a look at it. We'll make sure it's fine.
Yeah.
When he shows up, the mother of the buyer is up on the roof.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And she's up there stomping her foot all over the roof.
Oh my gosh.
Because she said she got up there to kind of, to see what was going on, even though my client, the seller in the transaction, had sent his roofer to fix the problem.
Yes.
Her mother gets up on the roof and she starts feeling a soft spot, and she literally pounds with her foot on the soft spot and puts her foot through the roof.
Oh my gosh.
Rick, I just said the name of the roofer. The roofer is literally standing on the sidewalk going, what are you doing?
Yes.
You can get up on any roof, and if you push hard enough, you're going to break something.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, the mother now gets involved.
Uh-huh.
And the mother, it's mama bear syndrome.
Yeah.
And this is her daughter's first house.
Right.
And so she's super concerned, and she's like, we want a whole new roof. And now you're talking from if the roofer had missed something, he probably would have fixed it for free, maybe a couple $100.
Right.
And in fact, the original repair was only probably $50.
Got it.
Now there's a hole in the roof.
Yes.
And you need the press board underneath and the roofing material and the shingles.
Yes.
And for that it was going to be $700, just that.
Oh, jeez.
And my client actually said, fine, we'll fix that soft spot, and get a little repair at $700, no problem, we'll do it. And the mother refused. She said, no, we want a whole new roof. We want the whole roof replaced.
Wow.
And we're like, no. We're not replacing the whole roof because you got up there and pushed your foot through the boards. And they refused to settle at that. They refused to have just the hole fixed and the other minor repair. They got one lawyer.
Yeah.
And I explained the situation and went kind of back and forth, and he was arguing that they wanted a new roof and deserved a new roof, and I said no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Utah is and this is kind of, here's some lessons.
Yeah.
Utah is a buyer beware state.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's the way to define it. We
Okay.
don't call ourselves a buyer beware state.
Sure.
But legally, the way real estate transactions are structured here.
Yes.
The MLS listings, as you know, at the bottom says, buyer to verify all information. In fact, I got a couple of these.
Got it.
So on the multiple listing service, it says that this is informational and the buyers to everything. The purchase contract, the Utah real estate purchase contract, also obligates the buyers to do their own inspections.
Yeah.
It gives buyers inspection periods wherein they can cancel the contract if it's something they don't like.
Yeah. Very flexible for a buyer.
Yeah, totally flexible. Because again, if the buyer proceeds and actually buys the house, that's it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why we're so flexible with buyers in the due diligence period.
Right.
Because once they buy it, they've bought the house.
Yes.
And, it's your job to do it as a buyer, your job to do inspections, to ask for repairs.
Get a roofer there to check the roof if you want.
Check it, right.
Yeah.
And they had an inspection.
Yeah.
And the inspector didn't come up with this. And again, on older homes, you're going to find soft spots.
Oh, yeah.
They're totally fine. They're going to keep out the water. They'll probably last for decades.
Yes.
But if you put your foot on it,
exactly.
and stomp on it, it's going to open a hole. So anyways, this one attorney, I kind of, I said, look, there's no way.
Yeah.
So you can just forget it.
Yeah.
If you want to go to court, that's fine. We are not putting on a whole new roof, when she caused the damage in the first place.
Right.
We're happy to repair it.
Yeah.
It's going to be $700, but we'll eat that. Because my client's a good investor, right?
Yeah.
So he has a reputation.
Yeah.
And then we didn't hear anything for weeks and weeks, and then that attorney, I dropped the clients.
Oh.
Yeah. And one of the things I had argued and here's where agents come in, I said, look, and now I started talking directly with the mom.
Okay.
And I said, you hired a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And you hired a licensed inspector.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with the inspection condition of the house, you need to go after your agent and your inspector.
Right.
But I can tell you, this isn't from a practical matter, I can absolutely tell you that agents will just walk away from, they'll just, oh no, this isn't, you need to, they'll blame everybody under the sun.
Sure.
I mean, this is a real estate program, I hate to disparage all the real estate agents, but in my experience, 80% of the real estate agents out there are grossly incompetent.
Right.
They can get the bare things done, and if everything goes according to plan, there's never a problem, and this is why there's so many of those agents out there. But when the rubber meets the road, so to say, the agents are very inexperienced and incompetent.
Right.
And they never take responsibility for things because they don't really realize that agents, they get into that world like, hey, I can help my friends buy a house and I can make money.
Yeah.
Not really understanding that these are hundreds of thousands of dollar assets that people are buying to live in, and there's a lot of details.
Right.
So tip number one, find and work with a highly experienced and competent real estate agent like Yoshi Shiraki.
Oh, thank you.
I know, I always come on show, you plug me on your show, so I'm going to start plugging you.
Well, thank you.
Because it does matter.
Right.
Experience matters. Don't hire your neighbor because they just got their real estate license.
Right. That's true.
Okay. So the mother refused to settle. She refused to listen. And I said, look, she said, we want to go to arbitration. Which is actually the next step. And that's something you need to decide when you are a buyer.
Got it.
And you're looking at the purchase contract. There's a section. It's the arbitration clause.
Yeah.
And you know this one, Yoshi. And there's 2 boxes that you can check.
Right.
In the event of dispute, the parties will go to arbitration first.
Or shall.
Or may.
Or may, yeah.
Shall or they may.
Yes, exactly.
Right? If you check the shall box, that means you have to go to a mediator first before you can actually file a case in court.
Right.
If you check the may box, you have the option.
Right.
And the difference, how they play out, is if you go to arbitration under the Utah REPC, then each side pays its own costs.
Gotcha.
So we had checked the shall box. We had to go to mediation before they could sue.
Gotcha.
Which meant my client was now going to spend legal fees and defense fees going to arbitration, and plus the costs of the arbiter.
Gotcha.
Because they cost money.
Yeah.
Just to prove his point that he wasn't responsible for replacing the entire roof.
Right.
And so we went to arbitration, and they put us both in the same room, and we were pretty adamant. We said, we're not replacing the whole roof. So that's not even a starting point. Yeah. And the arbiter could see that we couldn't negotiate, so he separated us, put us in separate rooms.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so in our room, I basically told him the whole story, what happened. That the mother's the one that put her foot through the roof. We were still in repair. We're still willing to give him the $700 to repair the actual damage, not the whole roof.
Right.
And we were budging from that.
Yeah.
And he came back. Well, what about a little bit more? No.
Yeah.
No. This is absurd. And and the arbiter knew.
Yeah.
And he finally came back and said, okay, they'll agree to the $700.
Got it.
So when my client paid the $700 and had it repaired.
Yes.
But he had about another $700 in fees for the arbiter and me.
Yeah.
And I gave him really reduced costs. I just kind of showed up and talked to the arbiter is all I really did.
Got it.
But still, an arbiter is they'll be $400 or $500 an hour.
Woo.
And that was split between the 2 parties, and it was probably 3 hours.
Wow.
In there.
Wow.
Or close to that.
Got it.
And so it took some time, and we won.
Yes.
But the lesson is get a good inspector, hire a qualified agent.
Yeah.
Understand that as a buyer, once you buy that house, you've bought all the problems with it.
Yep.
There's only one thing that survives closing before we go on to the next example.
Oh.
Look at that. I'm almost ready for a commercial. So,
oh, yeah.
What was I going to say? There was
one thing that survives closing.
Oh, the one thing that survives closing is if there's a problem with the house, and you're thinking about suing the seller, going after the seller for damages or the repair costs, the only thing that really survives closing is a material defect. That means there's something wrong with the house that really harms the value or function of the house. It has to be, material is a legal word that means it's significant.
Got it.
So a significant defect that you find in the
Yeah.
house, that the seller already knew about,
Oh, okay.
and the seller didn't disclose it.
Ah, gotcha.
So if the seller knows about something,
Yes.
doesn't disclose it, and it's not something that would be found on a regular inspection,
Yeah.
the seller can still be liable.
Right.
So sellers can be liable for conditions of the house if they. And this really is covering the situation where the seller's hiding something,
Yeah,
like
that makes
intentionally
sense.
hiding something.
That makes sense.
And so, but other than that, when you buy a house, you basically bought the house.
Gotcha. In this particular case, just out of curiosity, did this investor have Rick, his roofer, go and do it, or did they want their own roofer to do it?
I think that we gave them the cash at that point because we didn't want any further connection.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
At that point, if my memory serves, we just gave them wrote a check for $700 for them to, and then I think they could do with the $700 whatever they wanted.
Right.
If they wanted to apply that towards repairing, replacing the whole roof.
Gotcha.
They could. So that's what happened.
Okay, perfect. Then my curiosity was because of that, because like if there was further roof problems, you'd be like, well, dude, you have the money, you hired that roofer, go after that roofer now.
And one thing, if you are selling a house, right, and a lot of sellers will do this. Like after closing, the buyers move and they find little things.
Sure.
And they all come back to sellers. They don't go to their agent and say, what do I do? And the agent should say, sorry, you really can't go after the seller for that.
Right.
Because it was my job.
Yeah.
My job and the inspector's job to tell you these things. And we blew it.
Right.
So they say, oh yeah, you got to go after the sellers.
Yeah.
That's an agent's standard response.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't want to take responsibility.
Of course. Yeah.
And so, hire really good agents, hire really good inspectors, know what you're doing.
Yeah. And then the tricky thing with a lot of agents is they're the ones that recommended the inspector. So now, they can't say, go after the inspector.
If you're an agent, give a list of at least 3 inspectors and let your buyer decide who to hire.
Right. Very good. Awesome. Well, that's a great story. We are going to take a quick commercial break. We've got more of those stories when we come back, so stay tuned, and we will be right back. All right, so we just got done doing the radio show. Today we had Jeff Braylio in, the real estate attorney, come in and share war stories in the courtroom. I don't remember what he called it, but stories about legal battles, war battles between people who sued one another in the real estate industry. Super interesting and very, very educational. A great learning experience. So if you would like to hear this full radio show, check out our YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out this show. It's probably going to name it like Real Estate War Room Stories. So go look for that video. Now though, however, we just wrapped up the show and we're going to head over to probably Walmart. We're going to go buy a bunch of stuff, maybe 8 to 10 gym bags, a bunch of socks, soap, toilet paper, toothbrush, toothpaste. We're going to put all of this in a gym bag. Who knows what else we'll put in there. Bottles of water. And we've got this idea where we're going to go and interview the homeless in downtown Salt Lake. And this documentary that we're going to create is going to be called First Night of Homelessness, right? There's a lot of documentaries out there on homeless people, on how they're living, how they live today. But we're going to go find out the story behind their first night of homelessness. Think about it. They went to bed in a bed. They went to bed in a house in a bed this night, right? And then the next morning they woke up in that house in that bed. But for whatever reason, that night, they did not go home and did not go to a bed. They became homeless. That first night of homelessness. What happened that first night? Was there anything that could have been avoided, that they would do different, that would have translated into a different outcome where they wouldn't have been homeless? Is there a perfect scenario now with our homeless that could take them out of homelessness? And so we're going to go interview and chat with these individuals on basically hearing what their first night of homelessness was like and what led up to that. So we're going to go shopping right now. Definitely wait and stay tuned for this documentary. It's going to come out probably, I don't know, maybe in the next 4 weeks. It's going to take some time to film, but today's the very first day we're prepping for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to put them in the comment section below. And please, don't forget to subscribe to this channel.